All right, here we go. Kevin is back because we're talking more NBA basketball. We talked about the East as to who we might think will be, representing the Eastern Conference towards the end of next year's NBA season. West, Kevin, let's paint this picture. Free agency happened, and what was the talk?
The craziest free agency of all time.
It was insane. What's crazy is we say it was the craziest of all time, but we all knew what was going to happen, and then none of it happened, but then some of it did. It was this really odd thing where we all thought that, Kawhi Leonard was going to come to L.A., which he did, but not the L.A. that maybe you and I wanted, or a lot of people in Los Angeles wanted. But let's paint this picture. It's free agency. Everyone's going to go where they're going to go. People are going to stay in contracts. People aren't going to move. Paul George isn't going to come to L.A. None of that's going to happen. And then it does. Yep. And now the West Coast is completely blown out of the water. You're thinking Kawhi's going to come to L.A. Anthony Davis is in L.A. And we're thinking that the Lakers are going to take it. There's no one from the East. There's no one from the West. LeBron James is now going to have his team that he wants, with some of the parts that the Lakers put together. And there's more than just Lakers in the whole thing. But with Kawhi Leonard coming to the Lakers, it's over. Virtually.
Right, absolutely.
It's over.
You have 3 top 5 players. At worst, 3 top 7. Some people have Anthony Davis closer to 6 or 7. But even then, you're talking, that is literally an all-star team. That's better than Golden State. That would have been the best team ever put together.
Is it safe to say that if Kawhi Leonard comes to the Lakers, that they become the new Golden State and they're going to start mowing through people, and it's who from the East is going to represent against the Lakers next year?
Absolutely. That would have been. And it kind of sucked because me as an NBA fan, it got boring the last 2 years watching Golden State. Now I'm a Lakers fan, so I could when you're that team, when you're the one winning, it's not a big deal. But
sure.
For 29 other teams, it's just a bore.
Well, it's a bore. It's great for Golden State, and that's awesome. Right. Dynasties aren't, like they used to be, so it's kind of cool to see that consistency. And of course, even in football, people hate to see the Patriots win because they're so good at it, and they do it consistent all the time.
Yep.
And so it was almost like Golden State in the NBA was becoming what New England was in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But then the East gets blown out of the water because LeBron comes to LA. Who's going to emerge? Kawhi Leonard does it with the Raptors. Mm-hmm. They shock the world and kind of beat a somewhat beat up Golden State Warriors team.
I would say definitely beat up. State,
and they win the title. So now with Golden State still being injured, them losing Kevin Durant to Brooklyn, now they're the West Coast is a little bit more open. The Western Conference Finals was going to be dominated by Lakers. Kawhi Leonard doesn't give the word. I think, in my opinion, Kawhi Leonard was testing the waters as to who he could trust, how he was going to come to the teams in LA. And when Magic Johnson opened up to say, I had a conversation with Kawhi Leonard, that is when they go, I don't know if I can really trust you anymore. And we got to think of the guy who got all the players that we know and love for. The NBA logo himself, Jerry West, was able to get Kawhi Leonard to come to LA, but for the Clippers, they somehow get Paul George from OKC. And now it is a different conversation we're having in Los Angeles, where now the Clippers are going to be able to contend for the Western Conference Finals for the title, the NBA championship. Yeah. So how do you think the West is going to shape up with now there's possibly 2 heavy hitters coming from LA? Staples Center is going to be a little bit crowded now.
Absolutely.
Who do you think is going to come out from the West, Kev?
Well, before I get to even that, let's really even look at the playoffs. So, so you have Denver, who is still up and coming. I think actually they're going to be the number 1 seed of the Western Conference. And the reason why I say that is the LeBron James and the Lakers, they're not trying to chase the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. It's going to be very hard to even win those games, but they're going to rest. They're going to do some of that load management. The Clippers are going to do the same thing because they just got Kawhi Leonard and they want to keep him happy. Now, he signed a 2-year deal. Well, he has the same contract as Paul George. Paul George had, when he signed with Oklahoma City, a 3+1, meaning he has a player option in that 4th year. So a year removed from that, now it's a 2+1. So Kawhi Leonard signed a 2+1. So in theory, if things don't go the way they want it to go, in 2 years, they can just leave for nothing. Or they just ask for, Paul George just asked for a trade. So they could just do that. In the NBA, loyalty is dead now. But in essence, this is how we see it. So, but I mean, yeah, the Clippers are definitely going to be one of the top teams. I'd be super surprised if they're anything short of the 3rd seed. So you figure you have Denver, Lakers, you have the Clippers, but you figure those 2 teams. Well, the Clippers made the playoffs last year as an 8 seed, but just think about the teams who now can't make the playoffs because these teams are now emerged. So you have Golden State made the playoffs last year, and in our last conversation about the Eastern Conference, I was going to tell you about Golden State. Now, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
You don't think the Warriors will make the playoffs?
I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Okay. Now look at it. Uh-huh. I love Golden State. Now they have D'Angelo Russell. They don't have Klay Thompson. He's out in injury. Now he's not projected
at least half
to be
of the
back.
season.
More. I mean, now I'm hearing around All-Star break, and that's. Maybe. Now, Klay is a very tough guy, so maybe it does happen. But usually they say that, and then it's going to take a little bit longer. And that's why they had D'Angelo Russell. And they're not going to trade him. They want to trade him. They want to flip him. That's why they got it. They didn't want to lose Kevin Durant for nothing.
Right.
But now they have this player who's a good player, but he's not Klay Thompson. He's a good player, but now you have 2 point guards running the team. So it's going to be very awkward. Draymond Green, he's in a contract year, so he's going to have a really good year. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes an all-star team. He makes an all-defensive, first team or so. He wants a supermax, and from everything I've heard, Golden State's willing to give it to him because they want all those players back. Mm-hmm. They had that team, in essence, the core, who won 73 games, broke the record. But I don't think this is going to be the year. And you think about, oh my God, that shocks me. But no, let's look at it. So you have Denver, who they're gunning for it. They're young.
Right.
They're the same exact team that they were a year ago, who got to the semifinals, Western Conference Finals. Yeah, Portland, who every year you don't think they're going to be there. They're the team that's going to take a misstep, but every year since Damian Lillard has been there as a rookie, they have made the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Every year. They lose all their teammates. He lost LaMarcus Aldridge. They still made the playoffs. They lost Batum. At the time, he was a really good player. He went to Charlotte and ended up blowing up in their face. But at the time, he was a really good player. They had a really good team. They all went away. Damian Lillard's the only one. CJ McCollum comes up, and they end up being this playoff team every single year. And they're not even like a low playoff team. They're usually always hovering around the middle, like a 6, a 5, a 4, a 3. I think they were a 3 seed last year. Houston got better, different, may not be better in getting to the conference championship, but they're gonna make the playoffs. Unless it's a horrible mess, which I don't see it being. They're friends. I think they're going to be able to make it work enough. They have D'Antoni. They're all about the regular season, and they slow down in the playoffs. But that means they do make the playoffs. So you have Denver, Portland, Houston, Los Angeles, both Los Angeles teams. So that's now 5. Utah's going to make it. They just got Mike Conley, so now they're actually even better. Mm-hmm. So they were the 5 seed last year, and now it's like they might even still be the 5 seed, but they're a really strong 5 seed. Now Oklahoma City, now they're not out of it, or they are out of it. They're done. They're not trying to make the playoffs. They're looking for.
We've talked about that. They are going to rebuild at this point.
So again, you have Denver. You have. Let's see, Portland, you have Houston, and not in any order. We don't need to worry about the order this second, but you have both LA teams. Then you have Utah. So now you're at 6. Then you have San Antonio. Now, San Antonio, again, it's another one of those teams you don't think they're going to make it. You're like, oh, they're not going to make the playoffs. And then somehow they make it. Yeah, every year. It's so weird. You have Sacramento, who was that close. They were the 9 seed last year, and they just barely missed it. And De'Aaron Fox is the real deal. This guy can ball. This guy can go. He's the fastest player in the NBA, and he's really something. So you think he's going to be able to take a lift. Nothing's really changed. They got Harrison Barnes back. He was kind of weird because he actually had I think it was like $25 million guarantee for a player option. Mm-hmm. He was on the ESPN The Jump, and he was messing around, and Richardson was saying, like, we all know you're going to take the 1 year. Like, no one just leaves $25 million on the table. And he actually declined the $25 million. And then everyone's like, well, where is he going to go? Someone's going to be giving him money. And then he re-signs with Sacramento. I think it was like a 3-year deal for like $20 million a year. So he kind of just spread it out a little bit more for some guarantee, which I don't know. I personally wouldn't have done that. But, whatever.
To each their own.
Yeah, to each their own. But you have Sacramento, who I think could make the playoffs. Minnesota. So now we're just talking about the 8 seed now. So there's only one seed that's possible. So you have Minnesota. They're not making the playoffs. And this year, every year we think about what player is going to get upset, what player is going to want to be traded. I think next year we're going to be talking about Cat. He's going to be looking to leave. He's going to be frustrated with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They haven't done anything. I think they made the playoffs one time. And Wiggins is a bust. Wiggins actually, it's a topic for another day, but Wiggins actually statistically for his position, everyone thinks he should be get the next coming up, but he's actually below average. If you look at all the statistics, he's for his position, his shooting percentage, his true shooting percentage, his points per game. Now, his points are a little high, and that's what kind of fluctuates it, but he takes so many shots. He's actually lower than average. So they have Covington there that they traded when they did Jimmy Butler. Before he got traded, because now he gets less minutes, but he actually was a little bit higher than Wiggins, and that's what you don't want. So they actually want to remove Wiggins' contract, but it's a really hard one to move, and unless someone team wants to roll the dice, they're in a really hard spot, and there's nothing they can do for years to come, and they're kind of like where Oklahoma City is that you're not making the playoffs, you blow it up, what do you do? Right, and you're just wasting Cat's prime. So, but I'm not saying they're making the playoffs. I don't think they are. But you have Memphis now; they're blowing it up. They have John Morant now. They traded Conley. They traded the Gasol, the younger brother, Marc Gasol. They traded him to Toronto. So they blew it all up. Then you have New Orleans. Now, I love New Orleans. I love what David Griffin, the general manager of New Orleans, did, where they were able to get all these draft picks. They made a couple trades. Hayes is a really good center. He's really athletic. Then you have Zion. Obviously, you had to choose Zion. I mean, he's a freak of nature. So let's say, let's say everyone thinks he's going to be the rookie of the year, but let's say he's decent. Let's say he's above average in that first season, and he grows into it, and he just does keep his weight down because he's such a he's a football player. He's a stud. Yeah. But I mean, that's hard to do in the NBA. But I mean, he's the most athletic guy in the NBA, and I think someone was saying, as it is right now, he's like the second heaviest player in the NBA, which is crazy because now he's a rookie. Yeah. But if they keep that there, they have Lonzo Ball, they have Brandon Ingram, he's coming back from his injury. They have all these players that they're getting. They have JJ Redick was a huge pickup. Now JJ's in the same predicament as he was with Philadelphia when he came over. They were up and coming young team, and they paid JJ Redick up the. They paid him a lot of money. It was like $20 million a year for a player that was just coming off like a $10 million a year contract, and he didn't get any better. But he just went to the right situation where the team in the NBA you have to spend. Well, not only that, but in the NBA you have a salary cap, and it's mandatory that you spend X amount of cap. So when you have a team that has your best players are rookies, and you have this cap, well, you got to give the money to somebody. Yeah. And that's the perfect person. He spreads the court. I mean, everything gets just better with him. He's a veteran, so it works out great. But I do see New Orleans, in my opinion, either making the playoffs or being really close. So let's say you have Sacramento, who's really close or makes it. You have New Orleans, who's really close or makes it. And then you think about Dallas. Now you think Kristaps Porzingis, they just made the trade for. He just re-signed. So now you have two really good young European players. And Luka Doncic, in my opinion, he could be an MVP type player in the next year or two. I mean, it wouldn't even surprise me if it was next year. He plays so much like not the dunking, not everything like LeBron James does, but everything else. He can shoot like LeBron James can. He can pass like LeBron James can. I thought if we were talking about this a year ago, he was like my choice for the number one pick, absolutely. And the organization's really great. Mark Cuban gets a lot of slack. He hasn't lately, but he's been getting so much slack in the years of they weren't able to do anything, but they have the right coach in place. They have everything in place. That same coach won the championship for them some years ago. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win a championship this year, but I think they are definitely competing for a playoff spot. So now you have Dallas that's a potential playoff spot. So I put Golden State in that same realm. Golden State, I would say probably San Antonio, Golden State, and Sacramento, New Orleans, Dallas. So now you have five teams are playing for that last two spots. Okay. And San Antonio, they've just proven that they unless they blow it all up, Greg Popovich is there. He wants to win. He doesn't want to leave. He's leaving soon, but he doesn't want to leave on a bad note. So they want to make the playoffs. They compete every year, and they're always there. They play team basketball, and they always do what's right. So until that changes, until Greg Popovich is not a coach or a significant person to that organization, I see the San Antonio Spurs making the playoffs, which makes it really difficult. Because now you're saying Golden State, now they have all the talent, they have all the experience, but will Curry just get so tired of trying to pick up that load? It's hard. I mean, he might have an MVP type year. He won't get an MVP if he can't make the playoffs. There's no way. Right. And even if it'll be like a Kobe thing where he scored 36 points a game. They made the 7th seed and he didn't make the playoffs, or he didn't win the MVP. Steve Nash did, and everyone thought they robbed. Kobe got robbed. But that's kind of where you're at. Actually in that year he came in 3rd. LeBron James came in 2nd. But you have Sacramento, who's a come up team. New Orleans, I think, is a little bit better than Sacramento because they have just all those pieces that are just. I think they're all young, and that's the team. That's the thing that you can see it not working out. But I think if it's not this year coming up, it's going to be next year. But you have a team like that. You have Dallas. You have all the experience in the world with Luka. He went before he even came to the NBA. He was winning the championship in the 2nd best league, not the NBA, but the 2nd best league in the world in the European leagues. So you have that. Now Golden State could, but I mean, if Golden State makes the playoffs, they're not going to be looking, I don't think, anything better than 8. But the one thing that is weird to me is I look at Vegas. That's one thing I look at for the championship. Vegas, it's hard to win against Vegas. Vegas has the Lakers and the Clippers are the number 1 and 2. They're tied.
Okay.
For winning the championship, but I can't remember who's 3rd. But I think it's like Milwaukee. But who's 4th is Golden State, and I'm like, I don't even have. And my thing, I don't even have Golden State making the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, if they do. If everything comes together, now that's one thing. If they can just barely make the playoffs and then Klay Thompson comes back, now it's a whole different ball game. Now it does make it a lot different. And they could probably make one. They can make one upset, but I still don't. I mean, just putting all that effort into just barely making the playoffs and then maybe one round, but it just matters on the person they played. Now they go play Houston in the first round. They had a lot of success against Houston. Maybe they do because maybe Russell Westbrook and I don't think it's going to work. James Harden, I don't think it'll work out for the playoffs, but it's going to work out for winning some games.
Sure,
but that would be the perfect in their world if they can make the playoffs as like let's say a 7 seed. Let's say that happens, and let's say Houston ends up being a 2 seed or wherever it happens. That's what they're going to have to hope for. That they could make an upset, or let's say Golden State was the 8 seed and Houston. That's the team they want. They want Houston because they have their number, and that's what you always want. That.
So if we go with Vegas to wrap it up, we go with Vegas and wrap things back to LA. If we're looking at the Clippers, which I can't even believe that is in the conversation right now, but man. I mean, 2 people can make a world difference, right?
Absolutely.
So if you talk about the Clippers and the Lakers, both the teams that we're thinking is gonna, if not win the championship, at least represent the Western Conference coming out of the Staples Center. Who do you think is the one team in the West that will challenge either the Clippers or the Lakers?
The one team that can challenge the Clippers or the Lakers. Now that's
or who
really
could keep them from going to the finals? Which would be that challenge?
I would actually go with Denver. Okay. I think Denver has a legitimate shot. They take a huge jump every year, and they're just so talented everywhere around on the basketball court. The biggest thing to me is Michael Porter Jr. Now, he was a rookie last year, did not play. He got hurt. They shut him down. Now, he was playing in the summer league, I believe. He got hurt again, or he was training. He got hurt, and they shut him down again. But they just shut him down until preseason. But Michael Porter Jr. can ball. So it just all matters on health. And like we were talking in the last segment, it's all about health and how it goes. But if Michael Porter Jr. comes on this team, from everything I heard, he could easily be the rookie of the year coming into this year, which would be amazing in general. But this guy, his ceiling is like 25 points a game. I don't think he'll do that his first year, but I mean, you imagine if you can add a team who was the 2nd overall seed last year and he gets his first year, he wants to show up, because remember, Blake Griffin didn't play his first year. Joel Embiid didn't play his first year. There's a lot of players that didn't play their first year, and so if you have a player who didn't play his first year, with Ben Simmons, he didn't play his first year.
Right.
So you have all these players who didn't play their first year. If you have Michael Porter Jr. and he gives you what this is, Denver can definitely be really hard, and then the Mile High, and it's hard to breathe up there. It's a whole thing. If they get home court advantage, if they're the number 1 seed, I say that they can win because they barely lost against Portland.
And Denver has had more time
7.
being Denver than LA, than both LA teams have had with their guys.
Yeah, they're more together. They've been the same team. They lost Isaiah Thomas, but he didn't really play that much.
Right.
But other than that, the whole team's exactly the same. I would be very surprised if Denver even loses early. Most likely, if everything goes the way Vegas has it, you're going to have Lakers and Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. But if there's one spoiler in it, I think Denver will end up doing that.
So off the top, to conclude this, because we did this when we talked about the Eastern Conference, you're saying for the East, who's going to represent the East for you?
I had the Philadelphia 76ers.
So you had Philly in the East in the finals. Who are you going to, off the top right now, project to be playing Philly in your finals bracket? Who's going to be playing Philly in the championship?
I have the Lakers. I think the Lakers will be able to do it.
76ers and the Los Angeles Lakers back in the finals.
I think that will be it, and Paul George will be so happy because he just got his boy Ben Simmons a huge contract, and he's the main representative of both Anthony Davis and LeBron James. This could be the difference for that agent. It could be special, but in general, everyone will be talking about that. Yeah. I think the Lakers end up... I think it's about a 50-50 shot between those two, and it all matters on how they're playing at that exact moment. But the Lakers know their chances now. They have to do it now. Mm-hmm. And for the 76ers, the only thing that could be a problem for them is they're young. Mm-hmm. And they might think, well, next year. Yeah, because when you're young, and older players say it all the time, they don't know that there could not be a next year. They think they could just keep on doing it over and over again, mm-hmm. and not everyone is a LeBron James where he goes to X amount of NBA finals straight in a row. No one's Golden State all the time. I mean, it doesn't happen like that all the time. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, a lot of players only got to it. Charles Barkley only got to it so many times. Gary Payton only got to it so many times, mm-hmm. as a main player anyway. So it's not every year, but if that gets in their mentality, well, oh man, we're close, then we just didn't do it. And the Lakers know we need to do it now, right? Because LeBron James has 2 to 3 years left at prime, and if that, he probably has 2 years left before you start seeing it.
So Kevin's calling it now. You could see 76ers and the Los Angeles Lakers in the finals. We're going to end this right now, and we will have a really fun debate coming up soon about who we think is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. There are so many things I can say about that, so we'll talk about that soon. Kevin, thank you for being on.
Thank you.